Hi, my name is Anand Abraham. I'm an application engineer with GE Grid Automation. Today in this video, we're going to show you how to upgrade a Platform 3 UR relay to a Platform 7 by replacing the modules, the chassis, and the front panel, keeping your wiring intact. Now, the first thing we're going to do is make sure we have power disconnected to the relay. And as always, follow your company's safety policies and procedures before you do any type of retrofit. The first thing we're going to do in order to remove the terminal blocks on the back to make life a little bit easier will be to open the door of the relay. And we're going to remove the modules that are within the chassis. Now that will make it a lot easier to remove the terminal blocks on the back. So you open these tabs and pull the module out. I'm just going to set them aside here. And you do that for all the modules that are in your chassis. So now this is a CPU. So I'm going to remove the CPU cable from there. And pull the CPU module out. Now in order to access the power supply, if you want to remove the power supply module from your relay, you would have to take out the grounding clip. And if you have this basic style front panel, you have to pop the front panel out. And once you have the front panel out, then you can take the module. So the way you do that is open the door of the relay by about 120 degrees and give it a slight tap from the bottom. It pops up. So I'm going to set that aside. And I can remove the power supply module. Now with all the modules removed, we can access the back of the relay and remove the terminal blocks. So I'm going to swing this around. So in your case, you're going to have wires connected to these terminals. And so I'm going to use a screwdriver and remove the screws that hold the terminal block to the chassis. So now you have 3 screws on the top and 3 on the bottom for each terminal block. I'm just going to show you how to remove one of them. So once you have all 6 screws loosened, you can remove the terminal block. And if you have wires connected to them, you can let them be as is without having to touch the back of the terminals. So now we have our new enhanced version UR relay in place. Now before you mount it, I would suggest opening the door while it's on the bench and just removing all the modules that are within the chassis. It just makes it a lot lighter to install, and also I'd suggest obviously removing the terminal blocks because we're going to use the existing terminal blocks that you already have. The only terminal blocks that you won't remove are the CPU module terminal blocks, and I'll show you that on the back. So I'm just going to flip this relay around, and in our case we've attached back the terminal blocks. In your case you'd have wires attached to these. So the CPU terminal block, this one is going to be different compared to what you had before. So this is the one that this part of it is what you're going to leave on the chassis that came with the new chassis. So I'm going to reattach this terminal block. In your case, you'd have wires attached to it. So it has 6 screws, 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. Once you have the screws for all the terminal blocks tightly installed, we're going to work on the front of the relay now. We're going to insert the new modules that came with this relay back into the chassis. So first, obviously, is the power supply module, goes on the left. put it in, slide it to the back, and then use the locking tabs and lock it in place. Next is the CPU. And this one has different connectors, so that's why we have a different terminal block on the back of the chassis. So just make sure you line it up on the track. And you lock it in place. And similarly, you'll do the remaining modules, how many ever modules you have for your application. Once you have all the modules in place and they're properly connected to the in the chassis, you can go ahead and plug in the CPU, the front panel cable that connects to the CPU, and the grounding clip for the front panel. I'm going to close it. And lock this in place. That concludes our video on upgrading the Platform 3 to Platform 7 by keeping the terminal blocks in place and by replacing everything else.